And another episode of Friday Night SmackDown concludes with another Bloodline beatdown. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to really feel repetitive when it comes to these post-show reactions to Friday Night SmackDown. Oh, by the way, my name's Jose Ramos Jr. Welcome to another edition of the post-show reaction. And yeah, so the Bloodline have another beatdown to close out the show. Roman Reigns suffers another attack due to his stubbornness in not wanting to welcome back Jey Uso into the fold. Of course, in all fairness, Jey didn't really seem all too kind to the idea of returning back to the man that had basically emotionally, verbally, and physically caused him torment for the last 4 years. So when it comes to the logic of that, I get it. And I get that the bloodline is supposed to be portrayed and presented as this threat to not only SmackDown but to the Anoa'i family. That's why Roman Reigns is so hesitant to fully give in to Solo Sikoa and his iteration of the bloodline. But as a consumer, I'm not going to lie to you, you kind of see it coming a mile away and you kind of get just so used to bloodline beatdown after bloodline beatdown. But to be fair, in this era of the WWE, you need to maintain patience. You have to always hold out some semblance of hope that the baby faces will overcome the heels. That's why we keep watching it. Otherwise, if the baby faces always won, it's easy, you know? It's like in the NFL. I liken it to like any NFL team. When you see your team lose time and time again, it's only going to make that victory feel oh much more sweeter. But nonetheless, like I said, the Bloodline come out, they beat up Roman Reigns, and I'm not going to lie to you, part of me thought, well, Jey Uso was introduced earlier in the night, and we'll get to that in a second. So why wouldn't he come out and maybe out of pity help out Roman? Certainly, it seemed like his situation with Jimmy is beginning to heal, and the way that they sold the beatdown for Jimmy, obviously that took place off camera, but the aftermath of seeing him basically all bruised up and just laid to waste by the Tongans and Jacob Fatu. Great imagery to use for a future video package. Of course, we're talking about Survivor Series because I think we all know it's heading towards War Games. But that was the ending of the night. Let's talk about the beginning. In the beginning, Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline, they come out. They want to express their displeasure with Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso for not bowing down, for not acknowledging the new tribal chief in Solo Sikoa. And instead, the SmackDown audience was pleasantly surprised with an appearance by the IC champion, Jey Uso. That's great. Love seeing Jey, love the level of momentum that has been building up for him, certainly in this singles run and as the Intercontinental Champion. And we really dive in to the interpersonal issues between Jey and his younger brother Solo. We know that the main story is between Roman and Solo, who will be the true and definitive tribal chief. But there are multiple layers in this story. Jimmy and Jey, Jey and Solo, Solo and Jimmy, Roman and Jey, Roman and Jimmy. Paul Heyman still hasn't came back yet, and I have a feeling that the honorary Sami Zayn at some point will be reintroduced into the fold. But let's stick with the opening promo. Jey Uso wanted to get on the same level with his little brother. Emphasis on the little. He kept, in a way, belittling, and although it may be not intentionally, he was kind of condescending towards, Solo Sikoa, referring to him as little brother. You'll always be my little brother. And in that moment, Solo Sikoa tried to come off as threatening. He tried to be this imposing force with the Ula Fala. He had the bloodline behind him. And I even said out loud with my own brother, I said, I can't take Solo serious sometimes because it's just a stark, comparison to Roman. It's different. It's different than Roman. Roman has this aura around him where if you were to encounter him in a fight, that's not a fight you're going to win. Now, I'm not saying I'd beat up Solo Sikoa by any means, but it's just a drop-off. It's a drop-off between Roman and Solo, and whether that's by design or not, that's for others to determine. But Jey Uso talking to Solo, and I love the way he interacted with the other members of the Bloodline, not stepping down. That's what you want to see from your strong baby faces. He says if Jacob and the other members of the Bloodline keep looking at me the way they're doing, he was going to do something about it. And then Solo Sikoa obviously wanting Jay to acknowledge him. If you're with me, you're with me. If you're not, there's going to be problems. Jey Uso didn't really care. He's not picking sides at this moment in time. But he did say to Solo, the next time I see you, things going to be different. Now, me being a big fan of storytelling, that would lead me to believe to some foreshadowing, right? Whether it's a matchup between Solo and Jey Uso, I think it might just be Survivor Series, the War Games matchup. It's all leading to that. Friday Night SmackDown has been known to be the brand of the Bloodline, a storyline that has been the driving force of the WWE for now over 4 years. It's ever evolving, it's ever changing, but it has consistently maintained the audience's attention. This wouldn't be the only time we had a Bloodline related segment in the story as well, because Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso, who had not arrived at this point in time, they arrived a little bit later. As they were arriving, it seemed that Jay was leaving. Jimmy and Jay kind of exchanged this glance where they smiled. And it's like, I feel like there's a little bit of healing going on. Obviously, we saw their interaction on Monday Night Raw. At the end of the day, they're still brothers, so I feel like there is still that love there. But then once Jay turned over to Roman for the first time, again, in a long time, just them one-on-one, he looks at Roman and walks away, but Roman stops him and he tells him, I'm proud of you. We all are proud of you. And Jey Uso nonchalantly just look at Roman Reigns and he says, no yeet. Obviously, he was watching the show last week. He knows that Roman Reigns wasn't all too receptive to the idea of the Usos reuniting, to the OG Bloodline reuniting. And obviously, there's a little bit of hurt feelings there that are going to be needed to be remedied. A little bit of therapy, family therapy might be in need. But Roman Reigns told Jimmy, hey, we gave it a shot. We went with your plan. Now let's go with mine. And of course, as we talked about at the top of this post-show reaction, it led to another Bloodline beatdown. Again, it's only going to get worse for Roman, to the point where he's going to have to acknowledge the fact that he needs assistance. He can't do this with just Jimmy, and he certainly can't do it on his own. Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, the wise man Paul Heyman, and Roman Reigns are going to be back together very soon. Again, I'm holding out hope that Sami Zayn's involved as well, but they are going to be a united front. They're going to be a team again. And what an excellent way to segue into the next part of SmackDown's reaction here, because we had a couple of triple threat tag team matches in hopes of crowning a new #1 contenders to the Bloodline's tag team titles in the first of 2 triple threat matches. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa of DIY, they defeated the Street Profits and Pretty Deadly in what I thought was a pretty damn good matchup between the three. In fact, I have to say it, the finish of this matchup was fantastic. It was something creative. It was something unique, and dare I say, I don't think I've ever seen the WWE pull off a finish like this, certainly in the modern, era. We saw that Street Profits and DIY both hitting their tag team maneuvers on corresponding members of Pretty Deadly, and Montez Ford went to pin one member, and Tommaso Ciampa went to pin the other, and we're thinking, okay, it's a draw, Profits and DIY both getting a victory. Maybe it's going to be a triple threat match again, with these two facing off against the winner of the triple threat match later in the night. But then we get the announcement, and you can hear, I believe it was Jessica Carr, the official for the matchup, had said that no, we're awarding this matchup to DIY because they pinned the legal member of Pretty Deadly. I thought it was fantastic. I haven't seen something like that whether it was quite some time or ever. I personally can't remember the last time something like that happened. Big fan of the finish. It added drama to it, and it also adds something later in the future for DIY and the Street Profits. I can't get enough of either team. I think they're two of the best tag teams on the roster, on SmackDown, certainly. But like I said, it wouldn't be the only matchup for that number one contender spot in the finals, as Humberto and Angel Garza would face off against A-Town Down Under and the debuting Motor City Machine Guns. Obviously, we knew the vignettes were coming. We knew that they were addressed towards Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, two tag team champions from TNA and two former TNA World Champions in their own right. They came out, had a good reaction. I was a little afraid that maybe the WWE audience wouldn't be as receptive to them, being that they're primarily known for their time in total nonstop action. But I thought for what it was, they got a good reaction and a good showing in their debut matchup. They looked great. They won the match, obviously. But what I want to talk about is the finals for this number one contenders matchup here. It's going to be DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns. Give these guys all the time in the world. I cannot wait for that matchup. I'm thinking the Motor City Machine Guns go over. Are they going to beat the Bloodline for the titles? I don't know, man. That's a tough call. I can't see them losing to DIY in their second matchup unless they have some kind of clever finish where it protects the Motor City Machine Guns. Very difficult to predict in terms of that loss and how it would happen. So I'm going to have to rock with Shelley and Sabin to beat DIY. But that should be a fantastic matchup. It should be great. In terms of greatness as well, we had a segment with Cody Rhodes in ring where he was in front of the audience speaking about his upcoming matchup against Gunther at the Crown Jewel event for the Crown Jewel Championship. Again, another impassioned promo by Cody. Whenever he gets real serious, talks about his daughter Liberty at one point, saying that that's his motivation on why he wants to win this championship. For me, it hits home. I love when Cody really gets into his promos. It's not very hard to get in line with what he's saying and become invested in the words as well. I will say the one thing I have against his promo, on SmackDown tonight, was how he said, take a look at the championship, the Crown Jewel Championship. And he basically was putting over its beauty and calling it a beautiful title. And I'm going to tell you right now, Cody, I'm a big fan. Love your work, but you can't convince me it's a beautiful title. The side plates are egregiously large. The plate itself, no. The green, no. It's not for me. And again, it's looking like reports are saying that this is just a one-off. It's a championship for the night, very similar to how Braun Strowman won the greatest Royal Rumble and had that, again, a green title. Yeah, no, we don't need. I personally thought it would have been fine with just like a little trophy, maybe a big trophy. I don't think they need to make a title, but hey, product placement, I guess. Nonetheless, Cody Rhodes had a great segment here, and he's also in line with a storyline with Kevin Owens, where they aired that Twitter video that he had uploaded, trying to explain his actions and his displeasure with Randy Orton for basically siding with Cody Rhodes. And Randy Orton talked to Nick Aldis and said, I need a match with Kevin at Crown Jewel. And Nick Aldis said, hey, I can't. It's out of my hands. He said, what do you mean it's out of your hands? Make the matchup. And Nick Aldis says, it's above me. And they point up to the heavens and they both look up, and obviously we're both thinking about Triple H. And Randy Orton says, okay, now I know who I need to talk to. We're going to get Triple H and Randy Orton. A little interaction there. Two former members of Evolution. Obviously, Randy Orton was a former protege of Triple H, so I am very much interested in that little interaction. Advancements and storylines here for WWE Friday Night SmackDown. We also got a couple of the women's matches here. We saw that Lash Legend made her singles debut on SmackDown in an impressive victory against Piper Niven, displaying her strength, her prowess, and in front of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, the current tag team champions, no less. So they might be in line for another matchup, a rematch maybe. Don't know. But then we talk about tag team matches, and Nia Jax and her unlikely partner in Candice LeRae defeated Bayley and Naomi. Good matchup. Obviously, I think the story here is Candice LeRae going to be, kind of elevated more now? She is the current speed champion on the women's side. Don't know. big news and big reactions here from this episode of Friday Night SmackDown, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts and your questions or comments about this episode of Friday Night SmackDown. What are your thoughts on the Bloodline and the constant beatdowns after, after how many we've seen at this point? Go ahead and like the video, comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel for more post-show reactions. Look at that, all over the place. Post-show reactions just like these regarding Friday Night SmackDown, Monday Night Raw, or any of the main pay-per-view / premium live events. Of course, my name's Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you again for joining me on this episode of the post-show reaction, and I'll see you guys in the next one.